Today, boys and girls, we are going to be working on the I can statement of I can round whole numbers to the nearest 1,000, 10,000, and 100,000. Now, rounding numbers is a review from 3rd grade. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a number line. And by creating a number line, that allows me to set up my benchmark numbers. So I'm going to have an end here and an end here, and then my midpoint is here. So if my number is 364,219, and I want to round this number to the nearest 1,000, I am going to look at the thousands place, and I am going to underline that thousands place. And in my thousands place there is a 4, so 4,000. So I'm going to start with 364,000. See how I started with my 4,000, and I'm going to end with the number that comes next, which would be 365,000, because that is going up by 1,000. So 4,000 to 5,000. Now my midpoint is halfway between this number and this number. So halfway between 364,000 and 365,000 is 364,500. A little trick to help you remember your midpoint is you're going to continue to use your first or your smallest number on the number line, and then the next digit that you have, the first digit that you have that's a 0, is going to turn to a 5. And that'll work with any type of rounding. So if we're rounding to the nearest 10,000s or the nearest 100,000s, you're going to write everything that's here, and then the next digit is going to be a 5. That's going to be your midpoint. Halfway between 0 and 10 is 5. So 364,000 and 365,000, the midpoint is 364,500. Okay, so now that we've got our benchmark numbers and our midpoint labeled, we are going to put this number on the number line where it would go. So we're going to focus on this number right here, and we're going to focus on the zeros, the 500, and the next 1,000. Okay? So 219, would that come between 0 and 500? Or is this bigger than 500 and would become between 500 and the next 1,000? Yep, that's true. 219 is less than 500. So it would go about right here on our number line. Okay? It would go about right there. So then when we look at our 219, it's closer to which? Is it closer to 364,000 or is it closer to 365,000? That is absolutely correct. It is closer to 364,000. So when we round this number to the nearest 1,000, our answer is 364,000. So now I am going to take my eraser tool and I am going to erase these benchmark numbers, and we're going to use this same number and we're going to round it to the nearest 10,000. So 364,219 rounded to the nearest 10,000. So then we're going to underline the digit that we're looking at, which is the 10,000s. And in our 10,000s is a 6. So we're going to have 360,000 is going to be our smallest, because 66 in the 10,000s. And what would be our next 1,000 up would be 370,000. Because again, we're going by tens this time. So between 60, the next 10 would be 70. So again, let's look at how we can find our midpoint. Remember the rule that we just talked about. If you have 360, there's my first 0 right here in the thousands place. So halfway between 360 and 370 would be 365. again, that first zero, the next digit right next to your number you're rounding, you will make a 5 in order to find your midpoint. So 364,219. So now we're going to look at 4,219. So does that come between 360,000 and 365,000, or between 365,000 and 370,000? So since this is a 0 and this is a 5, I know that 4 is less than 5, so I know that the 4,219 is going to go somewhere like that, because between 0 and 5 I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and then my 5, and this is 4,219, so it's going to fall right here. Between 5 and my next number, I'd have 6, 7, 8, 9, and then the next 10, which would be 70. So, which benchmark is my dot closer to? That's correct. It is closer to 360,000. So 364,219 rounded to the nearest 10,000 is going to be 360,000. The last one we're going to do is 364,219 rounded to the nearest 100,000. Okay, so we're going to underline, and this time we're going to be looking at the 3. So when we do that, our benchmark will be 300,000, because we always start with that digit, and we're going to end with the next highest, which would be 400,000. Okay. So our midpoint would be 350,000, because that is halfway between 300,000 and 400,000. So let's go ahead and look at the remaining part of our number. 64,219. So between 300 and 350, so between the 0 and the 5, we have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, the next 100,000. So where would the 64 come? Between 0 and 50, or between 50 and the next 100? Absolutely, it's greater than 50, so we would put it about right here between the 6 and the 7. So 64 is right above the 50. So is it closer to the 300,000 or the 400,000? That's right, it is closer to 400,000. So we are going to round to 400,000. And that's how we use benchmark numbers and a number line to round to our nearest 1,000, 10,000, and 100,000.